1999 Women of Achievement Award winners are a diverse group of women from a variety of backgrounds. What they share are the desire and ability to reach beyond the ordinary to achieve the extraordinary, and the results benefit the community in many ways. This year's winners are featured at the Sheldon Concert Hall. The Sheldon is a 700-seat, acoustically perfect auditorium designed by Louis Spearing in 1912 for the Ethical Society. It has been identified as one of the top 10 concert halls in the United States. The Sheldon provides educational programs for children and adults and has recently opened the Emerson Electric Gallery, which showcases painting, photography, architectural works, and includes a wonderful children's gallery. Against the exceptional backdrop of the Sheldon Concert Hall, we now bring you the 1999 Women of Achievement. The award for human welfare goes to Dorothy Barnard.
When people have asked me why I do this and why I volunteer, I guess I have to go back and say that it's in response to a commitment to God that I made a long time ago. I was very, very sick when I was 24 years old and didn't know if I'd live. And I guess people make deals with God, and I believe that they make covenants. And so I prayed, God, if you'll let me live through this, I'll be your person. And sure enough, my life has turned out to be that.
I think Dottie is a leader, and she can't help but be a leader. She has the skills, she has the know-how, she's a communication specialist, but most of all, she has the faith background. And everything she has done has been involved with faith groups in one way or another.
My life has been 40 years of service, various things, many things, all of them that I thought mattered and were worth spending time on.
Dottie has traveled all over the world. And all of this has to do with carrying out her faith commitment. She's made a tremendous difference to people in the world, in many areas.
I think that the way you can change things is to begin with a small beginning, and I think we're beginning some of that with Abraham's children in these congregations. I think that other church groups are trying to do things from their side, so there are people who are trying in different ways, and it needs some coordination, and I think that this Faith Without Walls is maybe one of the ways to do this. I have 3 daughters, and I think they have watched me as they have grown up, and they have followed my lead in many ways. Sometimes children do the opposite from what you do, but in the case of my kids, they have really been concerned about other people, and so they have done a good bit of different kind of volunteer work.
She is just a woman who has so many gifts, who's actually used them well, not only for herself, but to help so many others.
I have a special verse in Scripture that appeals to me, and that is the Isaiah passage, the 6th chapter, in which God says, "Who shall we send?" And I said, "Send me." I always knew that I wouldn't be alone, and I think that my life has been just stepping stones from one thing to another, and God has always had another thing for me to do.
In the category of social responsibility, Janet Becker has few peers.
2 things are of great importance in my life, and they are somehow related. And one is housing, and the other is race.
Janet's been involved in the issue of housing for, I guess, almost 4 decades now. She has an unbelievable passion for trying to ensure that those less fortunate have a decent, safe, and affordable place to live, and she's dedicated her life to that end.
Housing should be a human right. In some countries it is. In this country it never has been. And it doesn't mean that if you have a place to live, everything's going to be fine. But if you don't have a place to live, really nothing can be fine.
She, for years, will be the leading advocate and is always in the public sector talking to them about these issues and being the kind of advocate that will not let those folks in charge from the public sector standpoint forget about the topic, and will not let them forget that there's lots of need in the community.
If I think mistakes are being made and I want to speak out, I will speak out. But they know if I like what they're doing, I'm going to speak out about that. And I do. You have to play it both ways. And if I write a letter to Congress or to a state legislator, I try to say something nice before I clobber them. The world is full of things that need to be fixed. And if you don't care about them, well, that's okay. But if you do, you feel like you have to do something to fix them. And so if you can be a part of making change that you feel is worthwhile, that's the greatest satisfaction that you can have in life.
She doesn't do this to get awards, and she doesn't do it for notoriety. She does not do it for pay. She's been doing this forever as a volunteer. And I think that's an important piece for those who may not know her directly. I think that's an important thing to understand about her.
Whether anybody knows that I was even involved or what my name is, I don't care about that. I get the satisfaction just inside.
For her outstanding leadership with area youth, the award goes to June Fowler.
In volunteer activities, you get to take those things you're passionate about and use your talents to help other people. I mean, I think that's a wonderful opportunity for you as a person and for the recipients of your volunteer efforts.
June, while a lot of people look at her as being the corporate executive from Mallinckrodt, started in Girl Scouting as a troop leader with her own daughter.
I did it because there was a need for a leader at my church. They had put out the call for a new troop leader about 3 Sundays in a row, and I was sitting very content just hearing this message and letting it pass me by. And then all of a sudden I had the memory of my childhood when I wanted to be a Girl Scout and couldn't because there was no leader. So here was this opportunity for me to have a positive impact on a girl who wanted to be a Girl Scout.
Once we found out about her, the rest is history, because she has served in so many positions throughout the organization, doing so much in so many areas. Last year we launched a personal care item drive and collected over 600,000 items to be given to local shelters and other people in need. And on the day of collections, June was down on the ground in the parking lot with lots of other volunteers and girls sorting items, putting them in bags. So how could you not feel that a person like that cares about what they do when they take their time to do that? Because as the head of an organization such as this, one might not expect to find her in that position. But there she was on the ground with everybody else sorting and having a good time.
For my daughters and my son, I think that they will know the importance of volunteering because they see me volunteer, they see their father volunteer, they see us giving, our time, our talents, and our treasures to other people. They're very involved, be it helping us stuff envelopes for a mailing for one of the organizations that we're involved with, or shopping for Christmas toys for needy children. It's something that we do as a family. We do it as a unit.
She does so much for the community, for our organization, of course. And I think what drives her to do that is the end result, because it's living, it's breathing. And she can look at that girl and see the difference in her.
I think the absolute best way that you can have an impact on children, your children, other children that you come in contact with, is by showing them. Telling them is one thing, but when they see you live it, that's just much more powerful.
In the field of community responsibility, the honoree is Judy Gall.
I started volunteer work when I was a teenager and was a candy striper when I was 12 and 13 years old. And my husband says that even when I was working for pay, it was kind of volunteer work because that's how the pay was.
Judy's commitment is to helping families. Her involvement with the Miriam School is very important to her because the Miriam School serves children with learning disabilities and or speech disorders. Judy has made sure over the years that she has headed projects that have brought money to the school, brought attention to the school, and made it possible for children who have needed this kind of education to be able to get an education even if they couldn't afford to do it.
I think when you see a child that's has learning problems or is emotionally disturbed, and you see that child mainstreamed and become a very productive person, that's what it's all about. That's why I volunteer.
The Holocaust Museum is another example of Judy's commitment to learning. She wants to be sure that people remember what happened in the Holocaust and learn about it.
I knew of the Holocaust. I knew that it was horrific, but I never really met anyone who came back and was willing to share their story. And these survivors, along with our other docents, go out into the schools or have school groups come in and speak to them and tell kids that never would have heard these stories what happened. And it's amazing.
Judy has always emphasized that her family be part of her projects and has had her sons down working with her whenever possible in any of the organizations. And when I came into the family, emphasized it to me too, immediately wanted me to join the organizations of which she was a part, and has supported my getting active in those organizations, and now supports it with her grandchildren.
It's important to me to see that my daughters, by marriage, are involved, and they are terribly involved, and that my grandchildren are involved, and hopefully they will grow and give back and work in the community and do all the things that their generation needs to do, because I know there'll be different things and more exciting things, because our society is moving at such a fast clip, and they're going to need these people, and they're going to need my kids, and they're going to need my grandchildren, and hopefully they're going to be out there just as we've been.
The award for community betterment goes to Marcia Greenstreet.
When you get involved in community service and you're active, you go from one organization to another and you meet all different types of people and really get to know your community.
Marcia's greatest skill, as far as I'm concerned, is her skill with people. Bringing people into whatever activity and interest that she has. She has a way of making people feel at ease. She has a great knowledge of the area. And she doesn't start a project that she doesn't do her homework about first.
I think Jefferson County is a wonderful place to live. I've been there a little over 20 years, just been involved in community service for about 10 years. But in everything that I do, I try to give the best image that I can of Jefferson County, and that is to get involved in a lot of different things.
Marcia is the kind of leader that Jefferson County is producing. That's important because it shows the capability and quality of life in our county.
My daughter is involved in the business that I am in, and so she's right there in the thick of things. I feel like you have to show our young people. You can't tell them they need to do it, you need to show them, and that's what I'm doing.
She has raised a family very successfully. As a matter of fact, as we're going through this, Marcia's preparing her daughter's wedding. But she also has had trials in her life that a lot of us don't have to face, and one of them was a bout with cancer. And I think that for Marcia, a lot of her involvement is feeling that she's been given a lot. She's been given a second chance, and so now she's going to give it back.
I found that you can sit at home and dwell on things and you have negative thoughts, but when I was at work, I was too busy to have those negative thoughts. Attitude is everything, and if you have a positive attitude, you can overcome anything. I now experience life to its fullest. I do things constantly. I don't wait because I might not have the tomorrows that I would like to have. So consequently, I'm going to do everything I want to today, and that involves community service, that involves being with my family. So I have very little free time.
For her community inspiration, the award goes to Jackie Joyner Kersey.
I feel it is very important to me when I'm working with young people to encourage them to want to give back. And giving back is one, being part of a solid foundation, understanding what that foundation is about. And those young kids can come back and volunteer, either be mentors to the next generation, and let them know that in order for our community to grow as a whole, we have to be willing to reinvest into our community, reinvest into our future.
She has risen above many forces: racism, poverty, tragedy in her family, as well as health issues. Jackie was an asthma victim that nearly killed her 3 times. Despite all of those adversities, she's become the world's greatest female athlete.
The Jackie Joyner Kersey Youth Center has been a lifelong dream, a dream that one day I wanted to reopen a community center in my hometown of East St. Louis. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded with people that share my vision of wanting to give the young people of the metropolitan area a place that they can call home. And I look forward to the day when those doors are going to be open and the boys and girls from across the metropolitan area will come through there and be exposed to a wellness center, be exposed to a library, the computer lab, music, arts, and also to get them involved in some type of athletic activity. So hopefully to help them become well-rounded individuals. And I believe that to be the best in anything is to be a great human being. And if you're a great human being, then if you want to pursue athletics, pursue education, all those things will happen. And that's hopefully the type of atmosphere that we will have within our youth center.
She is truly a hero, and she's not only our hero, but she's our neighbor. And I think that says a lot.
Whatever you hear about East St. Louis, you see that there are people there that care. People that care about young people trying to be successful. So for me, seeing that type of impact that I have had on people has really been a blessing for me and an eye-opener, because sometimes you don't know the lives that you touch. And I don't have to read it in print or see it on the media, but in my heart I know that I have made a difference in so many people's lives.
As a humanitarian, Virginia Klein leads the way.
I'm a passionate person, and I feel passionately about things. And being a volunteer allows you to give more than just your financial support, but to give of yourself and your time and whatever talents that they can use.
I think Jenny, to me, represents the best of people of faith, where her love for God drives her to have this love for people.
The papal visit was unbelievable, unbelievable. There were close to 8,200 volunteers involved. And while we recruited and trained in smaller groups, that day when things actually started to happen, it was perfection. People just showed up and did what they were supposed to do. It was wonderful.
Her task, I think, was everything from finding the volunteers, then matching them up with the needs, and then seeing that all of that worked together, that people didn't get lost in the process.
My daughters are very involved and have been from the time that they went away to school on projects of their own. And the interesting thing to me, and I guess the thing that made me most proud, was I had to find out about it from other people. They were very involved in the cities that they were living in without my knowing about it, which meant that it came from their heart. I was so blessed to meet Mother Teresa in 1988, and over the years she became a dear friend. She taught me so much about volunteering. She taught me how to listen differently and how to see people's needs differently and how to care for one person at a time.
I know one of the things that we were talking about just recently, her last visit to India and working with some of the children and Mother Teresa's home and finding that if there was someone who would work with them individually in moving their limbs, that they could improve so much more.
When you look at a sea of people in need, which is what we're all doing these days on the news, you wonder how in the world you can make a difference. But if you start with just one and you do the best that you can, then slowly but surely, more and more and more people come to help, and you help more and more people.
She recognizes the beauty of the people that she's privileged to work with and to serve, and she just has a joy in trying to help others.
I think as a volunteer, you always make a difference. And sometimes you're really fortunate and you're able to see a young child sit up for the first time or be fed for the first time in an upright position. And those are the dramatic times. But sometimes it's just the wonderful feeling that you have when it's over and you know you've done the best that you can do, and it feels good.
The award for Civic Responsibility goes to Mary Ann Cry.
I believe that if a business leader commits personal time to an enterprise, it sends a very strong message about how important that enterprise is to the community.
Mary Ann Cry is an outstanding leader by any measure, and having her in a leadership role at an institution like ours is very significant to us.
One of the most rewarding things about being involved at Washington University is the idea of diversity. I'm a strong believer that we learn from people who are different, not from our similarities. So if I was to surround myself with people who were similar, I don't believe I'd be as well qualified to work and live in the world today.
With Washington University, she serves as a member of our executive committee. This is really the group of university trustees who make the decisions that affect the entire institution. And she is a worker. She's not only a worker, but she's creative and very effective in encouraging others.
My daughter is a student at Webster, and she is going to Africa this summer to volunteer her time in a world that is very different than hers. And I think that hopefully she was inspired to do that by some of the things that I've been involved in. Women bring a unique perspective to a board position, whether it's a corporate board or a volunteer board, and that voice needs to be heard.
She certainly has the intellectual tools and has made the commitment to do more than merely be successful in her own right. She's helping others, and that, in fact, typifies Mary Ann Cry, a great woman of achievement and a person who is encouraging others.
I was conscious of myself as a role model, but as time goes on, I feel less of a role model. I feel that women have achieved a great deal in the last 10 years, and the individual woman on a board is an exception now. There are many women on boards, and it's increasing tremendously. I do feel that pressure, but I feel that women have achieved a certain level now, that they can relax a little bit and enjoy some of that success because they deserve it.
The champion of health concerns is Lori Latimer.
Once I started volunteering, it was just, you get such a good feeling. And when things start to happen and you can help people, it just sounds corny, but it just feels good.
You can't be involved in healthcare for too long and then not begin to run across a significant problem that exists everywhere, and that is preventative healthcare and healthcare being delivered to those who either don't have insurance or the working poor who can't afford insurance.
From the needs that were talked about in the community and something that I wanted to do personally for my family, I kind of put those two together and came up with the Galt Foundation. And when I first presented it at the meeting, people were very excited about it, but they couldn't figure out why I wanted to name it after my parents. And they asked me if my parents were deceased, and I said, no, I wanted to do something for them so they would know how much I appreciate them over the years for the things that they've done for me.
In this particular project, she has invested a lot of herself, and just a strong dedication and commitment to healthcare concerns.
The clinics are Midwest Health Centers, and they're located in Lake St. Louis, Troy, and soon to open in Warrenton. And it's surprising now because a lot of people that maybe wouldn't go for follow-up care or wouldn't see a regular doctor come back and start to maintain their health, which is extremely important. It feels good when people, leave and they thank you. Just gosh, so we can just be healthy and get through the day and be able to go to work. And we're so thankful for that, and that's what's great about doing it.
Not only is she involved in the commitment to the GALT program and seeing it be a success, she's involved in all aspects of the community.
I guess I don't see myself as a role model. That's kind of overwhelming. I just more see myself as a volunteer and somebody that cares about people.
In the field of cultural enrichment, the honoree is Peggy Ritter.
Well, my husband and I both feel so fortunate to have spent most of our adult life in this wonderful community. We love it here, we love the people here, we love all this city has to offer. We feel we've been so blessed to be here, and therefore we feel the need to give something back. So both of us do a lot of nonprofit work and volunteer for a lot of organizations in the city.
I nominated Peggy Ritter because I think she is an outstanding example of what a woman of achievement is. Peggy has dedicated herself to a number of causes, and when I say dedicated, I really mean dedicated.
For the last 11 years, I've been involved with the Bob Costas Celebrity event, and we've raised over $4 million for the hospital with this event. Because we've been so financially successful, we were able to open last fall the Day Treatment Center at the Bob Costas Center at Cardinal Glennon. This is a very special place. It's bright and it's beautiful and it's cheery and it's whimsical. It's kid-friendly and parent-friendly. So on the day we opened it, those of us who worked very hard to build the dream of this new facility really felt like we'd made a difference.
During the course of just 1998, Peggy chaired events that were raising close to $3 million, at the same time serving as president of the Zoo Friends Association. I marvel at that.
My daughters, I guess, have learned by example because they have seen me volunteering most of their life. I started volunteering at their schools. That was my first volunteer thing. And you get started like that, it just becomes a part of your life. And my kids are getting involved in volunteering themselves, and it just they see it makes you a better person when you do that.
I think volunteerism is probably more relevant today than it ever has been because the needs are greater. And Peggy has recognized that and dedicated herself to volunteerism and been very effective at doing the kinds of things that volunteers need to do to help organizations and to help people.
I think I've acquired an education that I could never have gotten in any school in this fundraising business. Volunteers learn to be loving and caring people. They learn to set priorities and goals. They learn self-confidence. You always get more back than you give when you volunteer.
There you have today's honorees. Through their leadership and devotion, they have enriched the community beyond measure, and for that we are thankful. So let's congratulate these women, the 1999 Women of Achievement.